Oh man. Wow. Um, hello everyone, this is EK Johnson here, back with another video, going over game 4 of the NBA Finals where the Knicks, who were down by 29 points, end up pulling off the greatest comeback, not only in Knicks franchise playoff history, not only in playoff history in general, but in the finals. No other team has been down by 29 points in the NBA Finals game to come back and win that same game the Knicks did that last night. We're going to talk about it. Uh, I'm sorry, guys. The Knicks ended up winning 107 to 106 last night to take a 3-1 series lead in the NBA Finals. And we're going to detail why that happened. Yeah. So before we do that, like I always say, please go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube. It's free. Also follow me on X at Coalition Hoops and also follow me on Instagram at Coalition.hoops. So my pregame prediction was that the Knicks were going to take a 3-1 lead. So I was right in that regard. I was wrong in terms of how it was going to happen because I said that Cat was ultimately going to be the determining factor. I thought he was going to have a big game. And he didn't have a big game at all, mostly because he got into foul trouble early. Within like the first maybe 5 or 6 plays of the game, he got 2 fouls. And that really sparked the Spurs being able to just go on the insane run that they did in the first half, just absolutely boat racing the Knicks in every facet of the game. And a lot of that had to do with Cat not necessarily being on the floor and also the hot shooting of the Spurs. The Spurs were incredible from three in the first half. I believe they were 14 to 26. They just could not miss. No, I'm sorry, they were 14 to 21. They couldn't miss. They couldn't miss at all. They were absolutely incredible from three, and that was really the story of the first half. You know what I mean? They were getting 2 feet in the paint every single time, and the first action that they were running when they were able to draw, weak side defenders from a guy like Stephon Castle getting in the paint or anything like that, they were able to spray out to shooters. So Devin Vassell was shooting the ball well. Champagne was shooting the ball well. Carter Bryant hit threes. Dylan Harper hit threes. Wemby was hitting threes. De'Aaron Fox was hitting, like they were all hitting threes. It was just a smorgasbord of 3-point shooting that we really haven't seen in the finals, especially in the first half of the finals. I believe they set a finals record with the amount of threes that they shot. And that was really the story of the first half, honestly. And Cat getting in the early foul trouble and not really being able to get a rhythm. I also said that Jalen Brunson was gonna be shy of 20 points. I said he was gonna score 18, 19, and have about 8 or 9 assists with low turnovers, and I was totally wrong because Jalen Brunson, for all of the criticism you could say about him, small guard, not a real point guard, things of that nature, he had 36 or 12 or 25, 3-7 from three, 9-11 from the free throw line. He had 7 assists, 3 steals, and he had 3 turnovers. He was a plus 11. And a lot of that came in the second half, But like I said before, the story of the first half was the Spurs hot shooting. They shot the ball extremely well, and they got out to an incredibly large lead. Like they scored 41 in the first quarter, and then they pretty much kept that going by scoring 35 points in the second quarter. So they were absolutely incredible, and they were up by 27, I believe, going into the half. And halfway, no, early in the third, they went up by as much as 29. But in that third quarter, I think what ended up happening is, the Spurs, they had a stretch in the third where they missed, I believe, 8 straight threes. So the hot shooting that was able to get them the lead in the first half, they, sort of continued to try to do that. And they were getting the same looks, they just weren't hitting them. And that really allowed the Knicks to get back in the game. I think really OG Anunoby, and Jalen Brunson, they were really taking advantage of their matchups. I think Jalen Brunson was able to find some seams in the Spurs defense to get to the bucket and score, get to the mid-range and score, find some space behind the 3-point line and score. And OG was able to score from all angles, whether it was corner threes, whether it was, mid-range jump shots, whether it was slot threes, whether it was cutting off ball, whether it was getting to the free throw line. He was incredible on top of his defense as well. And I think the Spurs really end up falling into the trap of just shooting way too many threes in the third quarter, which allowed the Knicks to slowly cut it. Now, going into the fourth quarter, the Spurs still had about a 15-point lead. But in that fourth quarter, I mean, the basketball was just abysmal. I mean, you're talking about turning the ball over at a high rate, not shooting the ball well. Victor Wembanyama not really getting any sort of looks at the rim like he was getting in the first half. Guys aren't necessarily closing out the shooters the way they were in the first half. OG's getting to his spots. Jalen Brunson's getting to his spots. Jose Alvarado came in for the Knicks, and I thought he played incredibly well. He only had 8 points. He was a plus 11 for a reason, though. And he had really, really two crucial threes in the second half. His last one was one where they were able to cut the lead from 7-4 with about 3 minutes left in the game. And I just think he was incredible. You know what I mean? His attention on defense, the intangibles he brings, you know what I mean, as a guy who's another ball handler, but an individual who can defend, who rotates on time, things of that nature. I thought he was incredible. And the box score doesn't necessarily show his impact. Right. But in the end, man, it came down to OG and Jalen Brunson. I think Jalen Brunson in that last stretch was able to really, really get to his spots. And there were a couple of plays that we saw that really, really crystallized how great of a player he is. One, when they were down 104-100, and Jalen Brunson gets the isolation on Victor Wembanyama and shoots three right over him and nails it. I mean, Victor Wembanyama had a very, very good contest, and Jalen Brunson nailed it. And then before that, he had another runner off just another mid-range runner that he hit to cut the lead to, I believe, 6 at the time. Right. And then you look at OG Anunoby, who, like I said, he came back in the game because he took a bit of a rest in the fourth quarter, came back in the game, hit a corner three, hit a mid-range shot. And then obviously we go towards the end of the game. He ended up getting the block on De'Aaron Fox and then also getting the tip in off the Jalen Brunson miss to give the Knicks the 107-106 lead. Right after that, Josh Hart gets a stop on Stephon Castle and they win the game. So I think for the Knicks, man, it's a tale of two halves. But I think the Spurs did more to lose this game than the Knicks did to win it. Obviously, the Knicks had to make shots. They had to get stops. But I feel like the Spurs' reluctance to really move away from shooting threes in the second half the way they were in the first half, and their reluctance to not necessarily get Victor Wembanyama the ball close to the paint, I thought that really did him in, man. And for the Spurs, I mean, when you get a game like that from Dylan Harper, 21 points, 8 of 12, 3 of 6 from 3, he was incredible, and he was hitting shots all over the place, and he wasn't really able to get any sort of looks in the fourth quarter when they desperately need shot making. Victor Wembanyama had 24 points. He was 9 of 25 for 13 rebounds, 3 blocks. 9 of 25 isn't going to cut it. In a game like this where your team desperately needs shot making, when the threes aren't falling, you got to get your big butt in the paint and dominate. He didn't do that enough in the second half. De'Aaron Fox had 18 points. He was 6 of 16. Obviously, he had the blunder at the end of the game when Jalen Brunson ended up missing the runner. They get the ball back on the rebound. De'Aaron Fox tries to go for a layup instead of just dribbling the ball out and getting fouled, hitting the 2 free throws and going home. He tries to do a layup. OG blocks it, and then the rest is history, right? So, and before that, De'Aaron Fox has just had some really, really bad plays. I mean, some of the worst point guard play I've seen in a very long time from a guy who I really, really like. I don't know if he's going to be able to clean it up, to be completely honest, because he's kind of been up and down since our postseason. And this game just sort of crystallized it. You know what I mean? He was just horrible in the fourth quarter. He had a lot of ill-advised shots. He had a lot of, sort of missed reads and things of that nature that you can't necessarily miss this late in the game when a team is making a comeback and they're at home. So he was bad. I thought Devin Vassell was really, really good. He did most of his damage in the first half. He had 18.69 for field goal shooting, 5 of 8 from 3. He had 4 assists. And I thought, once again, that was really part of just the Spurs' incredible shooting display that they were able to sort of put on display, last night in the first half. And Stephon Castle, he only had 13 points. He was 2 of 7, didn't shoot the ball very well, but down the stretch, he made some really, really good plays. There was a offensive rebound he ended up grabbing where Josh Hart forgot to box him out. And that really, really, kept the Spurs on top of the Knicks, because at that point they were down by 1. Stephon Castle hit both of those free throws. They go up 1, and then we see what happens after that, which is, Jalen Brunson shoots it. Spurs get the rebound. De'Aaron Fox makes the boneheaded play of trying to lay the ball up. Why are you trying to lay the ball up, bro? Like, why? There's absolutely no reason for you to try to lay the ball up in a situation. Hold the ball. Hold it. It's absolutely ridiculous that the Spurs blew this lead and possibly blew the series, because that's what you're looking at right now. When you're up 29, and you're up 29 mostly because of your incredibly hot three-point shooting, and that goes away, and you can't pivot to anything else. You have a 7-5 guy who you refuse to get the ball to in the paint in the second half. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. And for Mitch Johnson, I think some of his rotations were really, really bad. You know, the fact that you continuously try to put Julian Champagnie in the game where Jalen Brunson was hunting him and hunting him and hunting him, and he was really able to get whatever he wanted when Julian Champagnie was on him once he got into the groove. You make that switch, you try to get him off of him. Or if you're Stephon Tassel, don't concede the switch. If you're Dylan Harper, don't concede the switch. Just stay attached. It's the NBA Finals. They haven't called anything for the most part. And Stephon Tassel especially, he knows how to stay attached. Don't switch. But I digress. I think overall this game was more so about the Knicks than the Spurs. I think the Knicks were able to show the type of resolve that makes people understand why they believe the Knicks are the team of destiny. It makes people understand why the Knicks seem to be sort of destined to win this championship, because, you know, this isn't the first time they've come back in these playoffs. Remember, they were down 22 with 7 minutes left to go in game one of the Eastern Conference Finals against Cleveland, and they ended up winning that game, and they ultimately swept that series. You know what I mean? So this team just has a way of being able to get back in games. And once again, when you have a guy like OG, guys like Jalen Brunson, Cat made some big plays down the stretch, even though he didn't necessarily play overall well. He had 13 points, 10 rebounds. He only shot the ball 5 times. But I thought his defensive effort in the second half was a lot better once he was able to get some more continuous time. Because like I said, in the first half, his time was pretty much disjointed because he was in foul trouble. Second half wasn't so much, you know what I mean? And I think overall, man, the Knicks, I think the story really of this game is the tale of two halves. And I think the second half, the Knicks were able to impose themselves far more than the Spurs were able to impose themselves in the first half. And I think a lot of that, once again, had to do with just very, very small plays. Right, mind you, the Spurs were up by 1. Jalen Brunson gets the inbound, he shoots it over Wemby, front rims it. Nobody boxes out OG Anunoby, and he tips the ball in. Nobody boxes him out because you want to put 2 on the ball, right? Jalen Brunson just hit the shot over Victor Wembanyama. We don't want to give him a clean look. We know he's their go-to guy, so we're going to take our chances. But the one guy you leave roaming to the basket is the other guy who's killed you, not just this game, the entire series. Mind you, OG Anunoby is averaging 24 in the series. He's shooting 59% from the field, 55% from 3. He's killing them offensively. And that's the one guy you leave open to roam and get the offensive rebound, tip in for the win. The Spurs got to eat this, man. And to be completely honest, I don't know how they come back from it. I don't think they come back from it. I think this is going to be over in 5. I think the Knicks, knowing what they were able to do, not only in this game, but in game 2, squeaking out 2 incredibly close 1-point wins, I think they're going to come out and they're going to punch the Spurs in the mouth in game 5, and it's going to be over. I think it's done. And they can thank Mitch Johnson for some of his bad rotations. They can thank themselves for not necessarily pivoting from shooting a whole bunch of threes in the second half when they weren't going down like they were in the first half. They can thank the fact that they didn't want to utilize their 7-5 dynamo in the paint. And they can thank De'Aaron Fox. Because De'Aaron Fox's point guard plays some of the worst plays, some of the worst point guard just acumen I've seen on this stage from a veteran. And it's inexcusable. Absolutely, positively inexcusable. And for the Knicks, Jalen Brunson, he hasn't shot the ball well, but he's averaging around almost 30 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, 5 assists. On 40% shooting, he's shooting about 35% from 3. Already ran down OG stats. He's averaging about 24 in the series, 55% shooting, 59% shooting, 55% from 3. Cat didn't have a super great game tonight, but he hit some Very, very timely buckets in that comeback. He had a step back three that probably should have been an and one that he didn't call. And he also had a very timely bucket over Victor Wembanyama late in the fourth quarter to sort of keep the Knicks sort of trudging along when they were coming back. So yeah, man, overall, like the Knicks, the Knicks, man, they just keep on surprising, I think, all of us, with the way they're able to sort of stay in games and come back in games and sort of lock in these second halves. And they only led for 53 seconds in the game. Think about that. They led for 53 seconds in the entire game. If that's not the definition of just utilizing every strength you have, locking down defensively, making timely baskets, moving the ball, limiting your turnovers, limiting your mistakes. I'm telling you, man, this is the difference between an extremely talented young team and an extremely talented veteran team who knows how to close games. And with this game and that tip in by OG Anunoby, I believe not only will that live in Knicks lore, it's going to live in NBA Finals lore, and that will be the replay that is continuously replayed in 17 different angles in Knicks franchise history and NBA history, and it will be known as the catalyst that propelled the Knicks to the NBA championship. We still got Game 5, but I'm calling it. The Knicks are beating them in Game 5. The Knicks are beating them in Game 5. It's over. The Knicks are gonna win this thing 4-1. They've snatched the San Antonio Spurs hearts 2 times in this series. And I don't think San Antonio's gonna be able to get up from that. But we'll see how it goes. Right? It's been an incredible final so far. I thank you guys for watching. Once again, go ahead and follow me on Instagram at coalition.hoops. Follow me on X at coalition hoops and subscribe to the YouTube. It's free. Y'all take it easy.